On October 1st, 2020, I, Rebecca Ruth Gould, spoke with the Stop the JNF UK concerning my article, Legal Form and Legal Legitimacy, the IHRA Definition of Antisemitism as a Case Study in Censored Speech. I'm going to play two extracts from that interview, the first in which I discuss my article, and the second in which I draw out the implications of the IHRA definition and consider ways to stop its suppression of freedom of expression.
Article is about is like looking at the boundaries of what is a law, what isn't, and trying to both show that it has been interpreted as a law falsely and somewhat misleadingly, but to remind people that it is not. And maybe just one kind of update, more recent, from perhaps it would have been, I think, May of 2020, at least very, very recent, just a few months ago. There is Chris Skidmore, who is the UK minister, I think, unless that's changed, most recently Minister of Higher Education, has called on universities again to adopt the IHRA definition. And there was a government announcement, it was very much about getting the publicity that he wants and so forth, PR. And then people started interpreting that as saying, oh, well, the government's requiring universities to adopt the definition. But again, that's a misinterpretation, because the government does not have the jurisdiction to require that. They can't. So that would be a violation of the Article 10, I believe, of the European Convention of Human Rights. So that's basically what the article is about. I mean, I also talk about, I put this into context. I mean, another kind of mystery to me about the IHRA, witnessing its power from my own perspective in 2017 of being someone who was being censored on the basis of it. And I was amazed, actually. I was surprised by how willing people were to go along with it. Because those who are familiar with this definition will know that it's not anything that kind of allows for critical thought. Like, apart from what you feel about Israel-Palestine, it's kind of, there's a series of really irrational conjectures about, what some things may be anti-Semitic, some things may not be, but there's not a lot of straightforward thought. And so, but yet people who should have known better were very willing to give it credence.
And here's the second extract discussing ways to stop the negative impact of the IHRA definition.
This quasi-law, it gives an implied extra weight that it shouldn't have. But I was in the big ride for Palestine, and they were due to meet in London, and the venue was cancelled by officials in the local authority who said, well, we've adopted this IHRA definition and we're cancelling the venue. And that's the danger of it, that people act. It was a real impact, but where do you go to complain about it?
Sure, and I think that we can challenge them on the basis of, is it a law or not? Like, under what authority are you doing this? Isn't it just strongly recommended? So I think the more that distinction is pressed home, at the end of the day, like, the more things will fold, because at a certain point it's going to collapse. And there have been cases. I mean, I think we could make an analogy with what's happening in the United States with this BDS, legislation where certain states are, for a certain period of time, were requiring anyone, for example, if someone gave a lecture at a university in Arizona, for example, or Texas for sure, they would have to promise that they are not campaigning against Israel and they don't support BDS, or if they want to be an employee of the state of Texas and so forth. And so this worked for a while, just like the IHRA definition confusion was working for a while. It did. And people, because people didn't have resources, the people who were targeted, didn't have the resources to push back. So they just had to kind of go with it and protest and complain. But finally, the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, which is kind of the counterpart to Liberty, but I think actually much stronger, much more powerful from what I've noticed, they started taking an interest in these cases, and they started taking them to court. And now most of these laws are recognized as unconstitutional, and so states cannot do this anymore. So I guess the point is, the lesson is that governments, states will try to do things that are illegal. They will try to do things they don't have the authority to do and misrepresent, and it's necessary to push back.